Hello and welcome, winners, to a new episode of Failure to Communicate. As you can probably guess by everything that's around me, I am a huge Spider-Man fan. I grew up in the 90s, which meant that I grew up watching Spider-Man on Saturday mornings with early morning cartoons, from Spider-Man from the 90s to Spider-Man Unlimited. I've also watched the Spectacular Spider series, which I think is fantastic. Sadly, I've suffered through the new Disney Ultimate Spider-Man. Not necessarily Ultimate Spider-Man, but, whatever they want to call it. And then I've also watched all of the movies, the Tobey Maguire and the Andrew Garfield. I do prefer the Amazing Spider-Man series a little bit more. That's just a personal preference. However, today I wanted to talk about my favorite Spider-Man, because there are more than one. So first we're going to talk about Ben Reilly, who is the original Scarlet Spider, and then Scarlet Spider Houston, who is Kane. These two Spider-Men are my favorite because they actually are a whole different take on Spider-Man. Spider-Man, we all know, is great power comes great responsibility. He never knew his parents, and then his uncle died in front of him, really shaping the hero that he would become. So what happens if you take that away? We're once again going to analyze that whole human element. What does it mean to be human, and who or what will govern these people? Is it nature, or is it nurture, or a combination of both? So let's go into a little bit of history first. Both of these characters were introduced during the Spider Saga. Kane, who is the Scarlet Spider Houston, was the first unsuccessful clone that the Jackal created to hunt down Spider-Man. He was more of a psychotic man. He had all of Spider-Man's strength abilities. He couldn't spin webs yet and things like that. He was stronger than Spider-Man and faster. However, his body was degenerating, but because of his ability to regenerate and things like that, some of the spider mutations, he was horribly scarred and disfigured, much like a Deadpool character that people have heard of once or twice. Then you have Ben Reilly over here, who was the more perfect clone during the Clone Saga, and who takes up the mantle of Spider-Man when Peter Parker decides to run away and get married to MJ and settle down and try to live a normal life. So the big difference between these two characters and Spider-Man is actually printed right up here on, I think it's the third trade paperback of Scarlet Spider Houston. And that is all of the power, none of the responsibility. Like I said, these two heroes don't have the same upbringing as Peter Parker, so they don't necessarily understand that with great power comes great responsibility. So let's start with Ben Reilly. When Peter leaves because he believes that he's a clone and wants to settle down with Mary Jane, and he's having this whole crisis of self, Ben Reilly takes up the mantle of Spider-Man, his original outfit being the one you see there, where he's just wearing spandex, blue hoodie, spray-painted spider on it, and then of course he's got his wristlet outside web shooters, which allow him to have more coverage and shoot more webbing and have more canisters, other than Peter's, which are hidden underneath his suit. And he works with people like Black Cat and the new, or Brave Heroes, something like that. New Heroes, I think is what they were called, in order to better himself. And as he's working with Black Cat kind of explains to him, no, this is what it means to be Spider-Man. You can't be this violent, aggressive person. You have to care about people. You have to want to save people, not necessarily just pulverize them, because it doesn't make you much better than it makes the villains that you fight, and things like that. She helps Ben Reilly understand what it means to have great power comes great responsibility, and this in turn causes him to change his uniform one more time later on to a suit that looks more like the original Spider-Man's, except for the spider connects all the way back and isn't the small one and the larger one on the back. And it's a really cool transformation to read and watch as you get to see him progress and become more of a hero. With that being said, Ben Reilly makes the ultimate sacrifice during Spider Island when everyone gets spider-like abilities, and he saves both Kane, who's trying to kill him, and Peter, because he can't figure out which one's the clone and which one's not, and saves both of them ultimately to perish, but yet help them stop the Queen who is causing all of the issues. So after Ben Reilly dies, this leaves us to Kane. Kane, during Spider Island, all of his mutations go away. He gets bitten by the Queen, and she gives him better spider-like ability. So once again, he's stronger and faster than both the original Spider-Man, Peter Parker and Ben Reilly. However, he doesn't have the spider senses, but he can turn into the Spider Beast almost on command, and he can also summon spikes. And he has the stealth suit rather than the suit of Peter Parker or the original suit of Ben Reilly, and that's why he's got that red and black really cool contrasting look there. So Kane gets these abilities and runs away to Houston, Texas, where he doesn't know how to be a hero and he's trying to hide it. He's taking the suit because something's gnawing at him saying, no, you need to be a hero. You need to do this. With Ben gone, you owe him your life. He saved your life even when you didn't deserve it. So he goes to Houston. He, of course, like, the first thing he does is pretty much save a lady from getting hit by a Mack truck. However, where Spider-Man would be like, oh, hey, you know, watch where you're going. He goes, what the hell is wrong with you, lady? And yells at her and just berates her for being an idiot. And she's like an older senile. And she goes, that's so nice. Thank you very much, Mr. Spider-Man. And that's how it starts. People in Houston have never had a big name hero that people have ever heard of, have ever had comics named after him. So he was Houston's first real hero. And to go further into that, Kane is very different from both Ben Reilly and Peter Parker. Kane doesn't have anyone that's really guiding him in order to how to be a good hero, whereas Ben Reilly ran around with Black Cat and a few other people. In this series, this is just this is just Kane doing some good things for people. For instance, he finds a bunch of human traffickers. Now, most of us think, like, oh, that's appalling. It's the worst thing ever. Spider-Man or anyone else would, like, web them up, stop them, and free the people. Kane goes a little bit further than that. He frees all the people, and then he brutally murders all the human traffickers and stuffs them in the cargo container that they hid this massive people and they were going to smuggle. The police find it later and like, oh my god, this smell, and they're hiding from it and recoiling from what he did. He then, of course, takes their money and goes and buys a luxurious penthouse somewhere, too, to live in. And that's how Kane does it. He's not afraid to stop bad people. Not necessarily bad guys. Bad guys are there to have plot armor, be villains, and create a plot for these heroes to go through trials and tribulations. But evil people? Drug dealers that are selling to kids and getting them addicted? Human traffickers? Kane just straight up brutally murders them because he's like, they don't belong here. And sometimes bad things need to happen to bad people. And I really enjoy this take on a Spider-Man that has no one to guide him and is instead learning this all on his own. And he gets a moral compass, but it's not a compass that says, hey, this is right, this is wrong. It's a compass of, I like and care about these people. I'm going to do what I can to protect them and everything else. And I think that's what makes him such a really good, interesting hero to read about. And then, of course, during Spider-Verse, Ben Reilly's brought back from another universe that he actually didn't die in. And Kane, this time, makes the ultimate sacrifice to try to save Ben Reilly and everyone else who gave him his original second chance. He makes the ultimate sacrifice and sadly perishes at the end of it. But it was a really good ending arc for this character who isn't necessarily the best hero, but he's working on it and he's growing, and it's great to watch somebody who has no reason to be a good guy and has always been a bad guy turn around and be a good guy and a good character, a good hero. So I'd love to know what you guys think. Are you fans of Spider-Man? Are you fans of any heroes that not necessarily are one of the main cast that everyone knows about, but a subset or fall slightly under one of them and are a little bit different, such as the Scarlet Spiders as compared to Spider-Man, or War Machine as compared to Iron Man, who have you? I'd love to hear your thoughts. Please don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. If you want to talk to me about comics, I will talk to you about comics all day. Don't forget to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. As always, keep it weird. And remember, just because you have great power doesn't mean you have the greatest responsibility.